If you're looking to buy a home in the state of New Jersey and you are a first-time home buyer and you want to find out how to get up to $15,000 towards the purchase of your house, stick around because we're getting after it right now. If this is your first time to the Living in New Jersey channel, please feel free to click on the subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications so you can be one of the first to be alerted to the ever-changing and sometimes complex real estate market of New Jersey. My name is Matthew Williamson. I'm a luxury realtor here in the state of New Jersey, and the team and I on the daily, we get phone calls, SMS text messages, carrier pigeons, smoke signals. I don't deal in faxes, folks. If you've watched my other videos, you know how I feel. Yep, you know how I feel about the faxes. But we get communication on the daily from people just like you. You're like, who am I? You're a home buyer. You're trying to find a home. You haven't found one yet. That's why you're watching the video. Now I'm going to tell you how to get some money in a minute. But we get communication on the daily from people just like you looking to be turned into what you see around me. What you see around me are amazing reviews and extremely happy and satisfied clients that made it to the closing table, sometimes lovingly referred to as the promised land. And today, I have an amazing person with me. I call him the money. You can also call him my preferred lender. And he is going to school you and me on how to get up to $15,000 towards buying a home. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Brian DeVito. I'm a Senior Vice President of Mortgage Lending with Guaranteed Rate. Been in the mortgage business about 18 years, and I love what I do.
18 years is a long time, folk. What that translates into is knowledge. He knows what he's talking about. Because when you go to buy a home, unless you're stroking that check, unless you're that Powerball winner paying all cash, you're going to need him. You're going to need some of the money he's got to lend you to help you buy a home. And there are a billion questions. He is going to give you the answers to those questions. And today, he's going to tell us how to get up to $15,000 as a first-time home buyer in the state of New Jersey. Go ahead and fill us in, Money.
Sure. So if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking to purchase a home, and New Jersey actually classifies a first-time home buyer as somebody that has not owned a home in the last 3 years. So if you owned a home in 2018, you sold it in 2019, you're still potentially eligible for this program. And with this program, each county is going to have a different down payment assistance amount. It's either going to be $10,000 or $15,000. A lot of the market that Matthew and I cover, it's $15,000, and that money would go towards your down payment and closing costs.
Excellent. So I want to just circle back around, although you already said it. I just want to clarify. So if you're watching this and you're like, well, I've already owned a home, I'm going to go watch another video. Wait a minute. Don't go anywhere. Because as Brian said, technically, the way Jersey looks as a first-time home buyer, the way they view that is slightly different. You can have owned a home before. So if you bought a house and you sold it 5 years ago, maybe you've been renting, leasing, whatever that is, but you sold a home 5 years ago, Jersey would now consider you a first-time home buyer. Is that accurate?
Correct, and you could potentially get up to $15,000 to use towards the down payment and closing costs.
Wonderful. And now I'm sure you're like, yes, but what's the small print? There's no real small print. But look, with every program out there, and there are a lot of different programs, tons. They're all going to have criteria. Let's not call it small print. It's criteria. It's requirements. All right, that's normal. So here on this program, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, and sometimes I'm wrong, but not always, folks. I'm rarely wrong. It will depend, the amount of money you get, on where you choose to live.
Correct.
And then depending on where you choose to live, there are income requirements.
Correct. The state of New Jersey has different income limits for every county throughout the state of New Jersey. So, if you're looking in one county, or let's say you're looking in two counties, income limits could be different. The grand amount payment could be different in each of those counties. So I actually have a great flyer that outlines, what counties allow for how much in down payment assistance, what the income limits are. If anybody's watching this, our contact information is going to be below in the comments. Feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to share that with you.
Excellent. So once again, if you're a first-time home buyer, and as we said it a couple times already, Jersey views a first-time home buyer very uniquely, right? So don't dismiss yourself. Just be like, when did I last sell my house? Did I sell it over 3 years ago? If you think you did, which check on that, by the way, because that will make a difference. But if you think you did, absolutely reach out. Also, once again, to recap, it does depend on where you choose to live. Okay, if there's certain counties, certain towns, you can reach out to Brian. He will tell you when you say, hey, here's where I would like to live. Also, once you tell him where you want to live, he will tell you that range for income requirements. It's household income, is that correct?
Correct.
Right, so household income. This is a phenomenal program. Now, I don't want to use the word free because that's not quite accurate. I don't want to be sued for, misinterpreting things, but it's free. If you basically stay in that new home for 5 years or more,
correct,
and do not touch the mortgage. When you're like, what do you mean don't touch the mortgage? Well, if rates were to drop, let's say you wanted a lower rate and you wanted to refi, okay, which once again, you'd reach out to Brian and he would guide you as to, does it make sense to refi? If you don't touch the mortgage, if you don't do renovation loans, like taking home equity out, right? If you just let the mortgage be what it is and pay that monthly payment for 5 years, that money, whether the $10,000 or $15,000, what does that become, sir?
forgivable.
Forgivable, which means they don't really have to pay that back, do they?
No, and basically the way it works, that $15,000 or the $10,000 in down payment assistance, it's actually a second mortgage. However, the second mortgage, it's got a 0% interest rate, it's got a 0 monthly payment per month, and as Matthew stated, as long as you stay in the home for 5 years, it's forgivable. And when I say stay in the home, with some other mortgage products, somebody can buy an owner-occupied property, close, live there for a year, and then legally move out, rent it out, and buy something else. With this particular program, it does have to be owner-occupied for the entire 5-year duration. And then at that point, again, the grant would be forgivable.
So just to put that also again in the layman's terms, that needs to be their primary residence.
Correct, yes.
For 5 years, folks. So don't say, oh yeah, I live there. Yeah, I lived there for 5 years. Wink, wink, I rented it out. Nope. You need to stay in the house. Don't touch that mortgage or change it around or do anything. And live there as a primary residence. It's not real hard to do. No, it's pretty easy to meet those requirements. And once again, that's $10,000 or $15,000 that becomes forgivable, where it's free in a manner of speaking, right? So with that money, so here comes a question. We say down payment, and we kind of briefly threw out closing costs. So break that down, because people are like, well, is it for down payment? Is it for closing cost? What if I buy a home? And I don't know all the numbers, but for the sake of simplicity, what if I buy a home and the down payment is $10,000, right? That is all that is required based off of this loan parameter and program, 10 grand down payment. But where I pick to live and my income, I qualify for 15,000. Does that $5,000 difference go up in smoke?
No, it actually would get allocated towards the closing costs. And I have a couple of these loans in process right now. We have one, the client's looking to purchase a $400,000 home. Minimum down payment for this product is 3%. 3% on 400,000 is 12,000, and he's getting 15,000. He's going to have to come out of pocket with about $10,000 to cover the difference in the closing costs. I have somebody else, they're buying a $270,000 condominium. They're only coming out of pocket with $4,000 of their own money because obviously the purchase price is less, down payment's going to be less, closing costs are going to be less. So yeah, if you're looking to use this down payment assistance program and the minimum down payment's only 10, but it's in a county where it's a $15,000 DPA, that other money would get allocated towards closing costs. It's not like it just, goes away.
They don't lose that money.
Correct.
Per se. That's phenomenal. That's fantastic. Now, having watched other videos, and we've talked on other videos, if you haven't watched them, you need to watch them. But we have mentioned, different loans. There's jumbo, there's VA, there's FHA, right? There's conventional. There's all these different loans. On this program, what type of loan is it?
This is a conventional mortgage.
What is the down payment minimum on this loan?
3%. And the program also requires a 620 credit score.
So 3% down, conventional loan, 620 FICO score, credit score, right? And then once you kind of hit on that, those basic requirements, then it's just about where do you want to live in the 10 or 15 grand,
what the income is,
and what the income is, and then you just kind of go from there.
Yeah, and one thing that I want to touch on too, as Matt stated earlier, that you cannot refinance the loan if and the state of New Jersey dictates what these rates are. Every day they send out a rate sheet. Let's say that you close, you take advantage of this program, and 2 years down the road, rates drop 3%. At that point, we're going to run the numbers to see, does refinancing make sense? And when you have to pay this grant back, it's not like you're cutting a check to the state of New Jersey. Hey, here's your $15,000 back. No, it's actually going to show up on the title work that you had this silent second mortgage for $15,000 that would then be included in your payoff when we look to refinance the mortgage. So at that point, we're going to run the numbers to see if a 3% reduction in interest rate, what does that savings look like? If it's going to take you 12 years to recoup the $15,000 that we have to include to the payoff, it's probably not worth it. If it only takes 2 years and you tell me, hey, Brian, I'm going to be in that house for at least another 7, I think refinancing would make sense. So, if an opportunity arises where rates are better, we can always look to refinance down the road.
That was very well said.
Thank you.
Very well said. So to circle back around, because once again, people hear second mortgages and, people are like, wait a minute, money, 10, 15 grand. And then if I refi, I'm gonna have to take that money and give it back to Jersey. But once again, to clarify that, if you qualify for the program, and let's say, as you said already, you're in the home for a couple of years, rates take a dive, and you say, hey, it makes sense to refinance in the long run, refi. Jersey is not going to send them a letter or a summons to say, hey, you refinanced your home, you owe us the remaining amount of $11,872.12. They're not writing a check and getting penalized for Jersey and having to send that check. Yeah. Okay.
But the grant it's 100% repayable. So whether you keep the loan for 1 year or 4 years, if the state gives you $15,000 would need to be paid back.
So going back to my maybe misassumption, maybe this is the one time I'm wrong. The $11,000 amount, it isn't about that gets paid down.
Correct.
It's just 10 or 15
right.
that you got from Jersey for the program. And if you decide to refi, if you say, hey, you know what? Refi, you're going to save boatloads more money. When they go to sell their house, they will, out of their proceeds, I guess, that money
Correct.
will go back to Jersey.
Right. So it's not, you're not coming out of pocket with the money. It's just included in the payoff.
Excellent. Is there anything else you want to touch base on?
There is, yes.
Oh,
so with this
great.
program, you could still get a gift. You could still get a seller concession. So there may be ways to structure an offer where maybe the buyer doesn't have to use any of their own funds. Maybe we get the grant. Maybe we get the seller to cover whatever closing costs can't be covered with the down payment assistance. So it's a great program. If you're watching this video and you are considering buying a home, I think you should give us a call. One other thing too, if you're looking to rent, when you go to sign a new lease, you're going to have to come up with 3.5 months worth of rent. Let's say the rent's $2,000 a month. 3.5 months is $7,000. Instead of using that $7,000 to sign a new lease, let's say you want to buy a property in the county where it's $15,000. 7 plus 15 is 22. That could be enough to buy a $300,000 house and be a homeowner instead of a renter. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about renting, you should give me a call. Maybe we can turn you into a homeowner instead.
That's great. That's a really great way to look at that. And as he said a second ago, and I know I'm the repetitive one here, but I just want things to be understood to you home buyers out there, especially first timers. What he mentioned about the seller concession, and that's a whole nother thing. I'm not going to segue too much. But bottom line is, if you pick a house in an area that, let's say, is up to $15,000, it is possible, within reason, if you get a seller concession, that you could potentially, barring, home inspections, a couple of dollars, and an appraisal you might pay for, you could buy a home for very minimal out of pocket.
About $1,000. You can't even go buy a car nowadays with, without shelling out more than $1,000. So
I need to see what kind of car you get for $1,000. Is there anything else that you may want to cover? Do you feel like we've covered our bases here?
I mean, I think we've covered our bases again. If we didn't, if you're watching this and you have another question that we didn't cover, our contact information's below. I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you, walk you through this, this fantastic program, get you pre-approved to purchase a home. I'd love to, to help. So feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. I very much appreciate it. Down below will be all of our information in the description, all of our contact info. And once again, feel free to click on the subscribe button, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first one to be alerted to amazing videos like this. And once again, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us your time, and I'll see you around the block.
Have a great day.
Take care.